Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this morning, all about the modern workplace and modern working. So just a quick introduction to those who are joining us for the first time. Who are we? We're ADM Computing. We're a Microsoft Gold partner based down in Canterbury in Kent. Been established about 34 years now, so yeah, been around a good time for a tech company. We're about 70 staff, about 3/4 of which are the technical and service delivery teams. We're very heavily weighted in that area. Microsoft Gold partner, as you can see there, we're very proud of those gold accreditations because they're very much, we have to live and breathe those technologies to be able to actually deploy and work with those tools. We're also ISO 9001, 14001 and 27001 accredited. Cyber Essentials Plus as well, and equally we have vendor leading certifications as well with other vendors. So myself, I'm Mark Phillip. I'm a Service Account Manager and Advanced Cyber Essentials Practitioner here. And so my role is split really between working with customers, particularly around the Microsoft Cloud Stack, helping them understand these modern technologies, what they really bring to your users, to your businesses, and how you can actually get the best out of them. I also work on the Cyber Essentials scheme, so I take businesses through Cyber Essentials and give guidance and assistance to actually get people certified on that. And of course, modern cloud technology and security are inevitably linked, and the two cross over beautifully because we can't do these modern technologies without security. And I will come on to a bit more of that later on. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about the modern workplace and mobile working and modern working. So I'm going to run through just a few thoughts on why a lot of businesses are looking at this increasingly now. And going to just mention a little bit about some of the environmental benefits we can bring, and then get onto the technologies themselves. So Microsoft 365, and also the, as I mentioned earlier, the security and compliance side of things. So we've got a bit to get through there. We've got the Q&A box open as well. We're broadcasting this webinar from Microsoft Teams live events. I'll mention Teams a little more later on as well, but the Q&A box is there. If you've got any questions, do feel free to pop them in, and what we'll do at the end is collate all those together, and we'll do a little blog post afterwards just with any follow-up information that you may want to ask. Why are we thinking about mobile working? Well, I just actually want to go back a slide, just to that slide, my introduction slide there. And the bit I want to call out now on this is that statement that's behind myself there. And that's Microsoft's mission statement: to empower every person, every organisation on the planet to achieve more. This has been, Microsoft has been on a transformational journey as a business, both in the products that they're actually developing and producing for all of us, but also how they operate as a business, and the two tie together beautifully. And a part of that mission statement and part of the modern ethos of Microsoft is very much about modern working, and that's some of the things I'm going to talk about this morning. So back in 2017, there was this quote, and this came up in a few different publications. The guy I heard quote it was Panos Panay, the Chief Product Officer at Microsoft, and that was back at their flagship London show, Future Decoded, in 2017. And this is 50% of the global population will be working mobile in the next 3 years. And of course, we're getting to that 3-year point. I've not seen the current statistics as yet, so I'm just waiting for those to come out. But everything I think we're seeing is, and what we're seeing in the marketplace and in the industry, is that this is absolutely where things are going. Whether we've hit a 50% yet, we'll wait and see, but we're certainly heading in that direction. So why are we thinking about mobile working? Well, there's a few different trends and concepts that we're seeing in the workplace. And certainly I'm not going to sit here and say that these apply to every single business, every single organisation across them. If you've got a manufacturing organisation that's got a factory, of course, your staff are where your factory is. But there's a lot of businesses where actually there's a lot of staff could be working smarter, not harder, perhaps. And there's a common concept that comes around now is about when work is what you do, not where you are. And it is very much this concept of, and it ties in with how do you measure productivity? You know, is it because someone has come in and stamped, you know, the clock? They're there at 9 to 5:30. They must have been productive and doing work because they've done those times. Or actually, do we look at the output and what those people are doing? You know, is someone productive where they've had to sit 2 hours on a train to get to an office, plug earphones in, don't talk to anyone, go home? You know, those are the sort of things to think about these days. And on the back of that, staff and our employees, they're increasingly looking for a better work-life balance. And part of this is a shift in the work, whether it's this working from home, whether it's working out on the road on a more mobile basis. You know, you work in a coffee shop, you're working at customer site. It's this idea of where are you going to be productive and getting the job done. And so the staff are absolutely looking for that, and we're seeing this increasingly in now that actually a lot of recruits are actually, saying, well, actually, I'm as much looking at the role as the company and how they operate, and that's becoming ever prevalent in the workplace. But the other side is equally true, and I mean, Microsoft are absolutely flying the flag for all of this, without a doubt. But many other companies are as well, and employers are looking to now help with the mental well-being and of their workforce, and do all they can to help them with that. And this kind of modern working is absolutely part of that. So it's both sides of the coin here. A lot of our customers now are expecting that you know, you kind of work and get the job done, and potentially where they are. You know, we found actually customers like it when we're on site, we're working with them. I've got some customers, I've gone to a meeting, but I may have spent the morning working in their office. If they'll give me a hot desk for the day, I'm there if I can answer any questions or anything comes up while I'm there. But equally, I can then just quietly get on with other jobs as well. But it's this concept of getting out where your customers are and having more flexibility around that. And I mentioned it already, productivity, and businesses want to improve productivity. Of course, there's still fairly tough economic times, and lots of businesses looking for that productivity edge. But is productivity someone stamping a clock, or is it that someone's out there getting the work done and really delivering some good quality work and driving transformation? And the last one I want to call out here is that a lot of businesses now want more agile-based offices, and in fact there's an increasing trend now where a lot of businesses will go and spec a new office, and they'll have their headcount, and they'll only spec office space for a percentage of that headcount because they expect that a lot of their staff will just be out on the road, whether it's a customer site, working at home, in a coffee shop, who knows. But that's that trend, that's what their expectation is. And again, Microsoft very much leading the way on that. If you follow any of the Microsoft staff and the likes of LinkedIn, you quite often see posts from them in their home study or out on site and places. And it is this concept of, you know, work's what you're doing, not necessarily where you are. And there's some other great benefits as well. We hear about this global climate crisis that we're in. And this modern working is great. It can actually help with our environmental impact. So, you know, if we've got our staff working out in the field, we can potentially reduce travel to offices. Why have our whole sales team, for example, traveling back to an office when actually they can remote into a Teams meeting? And if we are downscaling our offices, as I mentioned just now, then potentially we can actually drop our infrastructure and our power demands as well in those offices. And of course, all of those things do our bit for the environment and potentially save some money as well. So again, it's a bit of a win-win. So just a few thoughts there to get us going on some of the reasons where both staff are looking for this kind of modern working and equally more and more businesses are as well. So let's move on to some of the technologies now. Absolutely, cloud is totally enabling and revolutionizing how we are actually working, without a doubt. And leading that as a technology platform for us as a Microsoft house is absolutely Azure and Microsoft 365. I'm not going to talk too much about Azure today, but I want to focus more on Microsoft 365 because for a lot of the businesses we work with who are beginning their cloud journey, Microsoft 365 is where it's at. And it's Microsoft's cloud-based productivity and collaboration platform. Microsoft 365 actually comprises of, I get 3 core parts. That's Office 365 that we've kind of grown up on now. It's got our desktop applications. We've got our Word, our Excel, our Outlook, but we've got newer ones coming through. We've got Planner for project management. We've got Sway for presentations, different types of presentation delivery to PowerPoint. We've got Forms, which is a tool we can use to create questionnaires. If you've used SurveyMonkey, it's similar to that, but we can then embed that into 365. OneNote as our electronic notepad, whether it's typed notes, handwritten notes through inking, and yeah, that's there as well. Shifts for our frontline worker, where we can manage staff shifts. They can manage a shifts pattern themselves to a degree, request shift changes, all that kind of thing. And there's much more else as well. But it is this whole platform. It has absolutely gone beyond Word, Excel, Outlook, PowerPoint. It's so much more beyond that as well. And the one there, of course, the big one, I'll call it out on its own as part of 365, is Teams. Teams being that collaboration hub now, and happy birthday month to Teams. It's 3 years old this month. So Teams is the collaboration hub for 365. It's got our collaboration, our chat-based interactions. We can share files, work on files together with colleagues. We have calling capabilities, meeting. We're actually using some of the meeting capabilities for the session today. This is the live events function that we're broadcasting with. So I'm actually broadcasting this live event. I'm sharing my screen, my PowerPoint with you guys, and my video and obviously voice as well. So it's very much that collaborative experience. And say Teams really does bring everything all together into one place, and it's absolutely about that single pane of glass. And it's what we also now need to think is Teams is better together. So it's Teams plus SharePoint, Teams plus OneDrive, Teams plus OneNote, and so on and so on. It really is that hub. Now, the other areas of Microsoft 365 that we bring into play as well to help us are enterprise mobility and security. I'll come back onto that in a moment specifically. And Windows 10, of course. Windows 10 being the current Microsoft desktop operating system, and it is the most, not only the current, but the most secure version of Windows 10, of Windows that we've had so far. And all three come together to work together as our cloud-based infrastructure. I'll come back to the security piece in a minute, just a little more detail. Some of the other things we get through Microsoft 365, through Windows 10, is accessibility. This has been a huge thing for Microsoft over the last couple of years. Accessibility is now baked into these products. So we can have subtitles running in Teams meetings, in PowerPoints. We have interactive readers. So if I had a Word document, I could put my accessible reader on. It transforms that document into more easy to read text with a larger white background. It clears away the clutter of the toolbars and makes it a lot easier to read. If I had visual problems, then I can actually use that reader to actually read out that text for me. It becomes an interactive reader, and that's through Word and OneNote. So there is so much going on. And that's just baked in throughout the whole platform. So many different things there on the accessibility front. Also, if we're talking more modern working, we're talking collaboration, flexibility, then where would we be without cross-platform support? And again, who would have thought a few years back that Microsoft would have actively supported Apple products and Android? But absolutely, that is the case now. So Microsoft 365 fully supported across those platforms, so we can consume these products, these workloads across our Windows-based desktops, our laptops. We can use them on an Android phone. We could use them on an iPad, all fully supported and integrated through Microsoft Cloud. And this is another part, that big shift that we've seen in Microsoft that I mentioned earlier, that transformation. It's all about having access to your data, to your colleagues, to be able to work wherever you are, whenever you are, but securely. So that's been another huge shift we've seen. So I keep mentioning security, so I'll come back to it. So let's talk that. We've got these great tools. We can empower our staff. We can give them all these tools. They can work wherever they need to. But of course, we can't, we can't ignore security. And using these technologies, if we don't have the security, it is obviously foolish. We live in an age where there are increasing cyber threats. We have GDPR, the Data Protection Act, and we have to think about our data security. So a lot of what we've done historically in traditional on-premise IT, we're now taking into cloud, but we can do a lot more as well. So this is where Windows 10 and the integration of other applications into Office 365 comes into play. So we can start using our Microsoft authentication as a front end for our other applications as well. The core part, now Windows 10 as well is, as I said, one of the most secure version of Windows we've seen, and there's some great tools baked in. We've got Windows Defender. We've also got things like the Smart Screen, which helps us with scanning and running of live applications. We've got Application Attachment Manager. So there's so many tools already baked in that we can just switch on and use. And they really help. And if we're talking about compliance, the things like Cyber Essentials, those are some really easy tools we can use to help us with that. And a big part of the Microsoft 365 platform is Enterprise Mobility and Security, or EM&S. There is more to it, but the headline piece is there. Our Microsoft Intune for our device management, Azure Active Directory for our users, and Azure Information Protection for our data. So with Intune, we notice I said device management, not mobile device management. Historically, we would have thought of our MDM as managing our mobile phones, making sure we can encrypt our phones and remote wipe them. We can do all that with Intune, but it is now our device management. So we can manage our Windows devices as well with this. So where we've got a more agile workforce, they may not be coming into the office to plug into the network to connect to the main controller. Don't need to. You now actually can manage the devices from the cloud via Intune. So we can do all kinds of things there. So if it's our corporate laptops, we can manage all our Windows policies. Much of what we've seen that we've historically been able to do in group policy has been making its way over to Intune. So there's a lot more going on there. So we can make sure that we've got our firewalls enabled. We can make sure that we've got things like Smart Screen, Attachment Manager, all those sorts of things enabled. So Azure Active Directory is our user management. And this is where we're managing all our user accounts. We're also managing a lot of our authentication. I'm just dipping into a few of the headlines here. There's so much to all of these. So Azure AD, we can do things like extra protection for our authentication. We're moving away now from good old-fashioned username and password. Password guidance has changed. So we're now looking not just for having complexity rules or minimum amount of characters. I can break most people's complexity rules and password requirements with a really bad password. I can use password 1 with a capital P and a 1 at the end, and that meets a lot of complexity rules and minimum character length, but it's a shockingly bad password. So we're moving beyond that, and the guidance we're giving as well is we're all about passwords being difficult to guess, easy to remember. A phrase or 3 random words are common ones people use. Moving on from that, though, with the cloud technologies, we're also moving more to a passwordless environment. So we're using things like Windows Hello to authenticate to our devices. A massive one that we're also seeing that we get through Azure AD is multi-factor authentication. And this is where we use a secondary authentication method when we sign in. Now, we can actually do some really cool stuff with this. So if I'm at the ADM office, I don't get my secondary factor because it knows that I'm behind our trusted firewall. Therefore, it's fairly safe to say that it should be me logging in. But when I'm outside of the office, I have to use the authenticator app on my phone, and it prompts me to say, do you wish to allow this login? Now, what that's doing there is giving protection. If someone is trying to breach my password or has actually obtained my credentials, they're going to log in, obviously from outside ADM. Therefore, when they actually try and log in, instantly they will be blocked by the multi-factor because hopefully they haven't got my phone. So if I see my phone popping up saying, please can you approve this login, and I'm down walking the dogs with my daughter, then I'm going to, of course, hit no, block it. And until I've hit the approve anyway, it wouldn't go in. So it's such a big one now, MFA, and we get that through Azure AD. And just as a side note, while I'm talking about MFA, it is now becoming available on a lot more platforms, and personally as well as professionally. So if you've got LinkedIn, you've got Amazon, you've got PayPal, Facebook, all those sort of platforms all now support an MFA of some description, many of them through an authenticator app. So it's really worth going on and looking at enabling that because it's such a huge way of protecting your credentials. The one takeaway I would like you to have from today, though, if you do nothing else, if you are using 365 in any way, shape or form, you can switch on multi-factor authentication for your 365 admin accounts for free. Please go and do it. The admin account is the keys to the kingdom. If someone breaches that, they can do whatever they like in your 365 tenant. So please do go away, switch on MFA on your admin accounts if you do nothing else from this session. Thank you. And the last piece we've got is our data management, our Azure information protection. So this is all about our data and how it's getting handled and what we do with it. So we can set rules around encrypting emails that have sensitive data in. For example, if an email had a passport number, a national insurance number, or things like that, it can automatically be encrypted without any interaction from the user. It just happens out the back end. We can also block that type of traffic going. So if we think that someone's trying to send something that they shouldn't through either malintent or error, then actually we can configure it to actually block those sorts of things as well. Or at the very least, again, auto encrypt it. We can also put a lot of rules in around massive filtration of data. There's all kinds of things we can do there, so massively powerful. And when we talk about things like data protection and are we GDPR compliant and these sorts of things, these are some of the tools you can use to help mitigate a lot of the risk for your data. Because as part of our preparation for those legislations and our compliance, we need to understand our data and how it's being used and where it's transiting. So if we can have rules in place that help secure that, it goes a long way towards our compliance and helping mitigate the risks that we've identified in our risk assessments. So it's an awful lot that I've kind of gone through at a fair rate tonight, but there's so much more that we could talk about. And what I really want to do is give you a flavour this morning of what some of the technologies are there, why people are looking and what the technologies are. We can absolutely have that conversation, see how this would fit and talk to you more in depth as well as a follow-up. So just to recap, some of the headlines we're talking about are our staff well-being, our productivity, our company growth, hopefully some cost reduction, if we really embrace this modern working, and some benefits to the environment as well. So that brings us to the end of what I wanted to run through this morning with you, and I do hope that was useful and giving you some food for thought. It's a vast topic, and there's so much more we could talk about, and a lot of it becomes very specific to different company and different challenges. There's lots of other things we've not mentioned today, whole conversation, whole mornings themselves, the Power Platform, the automation, AI, all these sorts of things. They're all out there and available and can bring a lot of benefits to businesses. So just to wrap up, I do just want to give you a quick heads up. So we do run various sessions. We've got this as a short webinar this morning, just to get the information out. Hopefully, get you some new thoughts and get you thinking about some of these things. We've got a series of events coming up. They're all on our events page on our website, www.adm-computing.co.uk/events. It's at the bottom there. We're running a security event here in a couple of weeks' time. We've actually got Ken Please coming to join us as well for that. That's going to be all about the common cyber threats facing businesses, cyber essentials, and some of the things you can do to protect yourself. We're up at Microsoft. We're lucky to have used their Paddington offices. They're lovely meeting and presentation rooms up there. We're going to be running a tips and tricks session on Office 365, and that's also a mini training session. We're partnering with Alex Waterston from FKeys. He's a Microsoft certified trainer. He's going to be taking you through some top tips to help you keep up to date on things like the latest versions of Excel and Outlook and Word. You know, they change all the time, and a lot of people haven't had training since perhaps 2010. Huge changes in that meantime. So Alex is going to be talking about a lot of the updates here, how to keep yourself up to date. We're also going to be running an event all around Teams. I mentioned Teams a little bit earlier, and SharePoint and the Power Platform back up at Microsoft again. That's all about how we can start automating and put a lot more efficiency into the systems and the data that we're using. Focusing on Microsoft 365 much more, as I've spoken about today. We're running two events because it's really popular on this one. 7th May, 15th of June, again up at Microsoft. And the final one at Microsoft, we're running a security in the cloud event in June as well. So going a little more depth around some of the things I've actually spoken about today in EM&S and such like in Cyber Essentials. So we're likely to put more webinars and the like on as well. So do keep an eye on the events page. This is what we've got booked already. More to come as well. Follow us on the events page and also follow us on LinkedIn as well. Our LinkedIn address is there. as is mine. Do feel free to connect if you'd like to keep up to date on anything on the Microsoft Cloud Stack. I do share a lot of things on that as well. So yeah, again, thank you very much for joining us this morning. I hope that's given you some good food for thought. Do feel free to get in touch as a follow-up if you've got any more questions. I'm happy to carry the conversation on. We've got various presentations we can do to you to kind of look a lot more in depth than we've had time for this morning. Explore Microsoft 365, explore the security a lot more. So do feel free to get in touch if that be of use. Otherwise, wish you a great rest of the day, and thanks again for joining.